So for the most dangerous game, the notes, you can fill in the points based on these concepts we're going to discuss. So the major symbols in the story, dark and light. So it's making reference to the time frames, which suggest light and darkness. Life and death tend to be, darkness is symbolized of death and light is of life. The idea of the hunter and the hunted, so the concept of predator-prey. Power and control, and the chain of being. So in this story also the national social rank is referred to in here. The sea in this story is symbolic of death. So look for those examples. And the forest is also very lush and suffocating. Major themes in this story are fear, control, death, suffering, isolation, racial segregation, and entrapment. You are to look for the following literary devices in the story as practice for your upcoming test. Simile, imagery, foreshadowing, personification, paradox, allusion, irony, metaphor, pathetic fallacy, anticipation. All of these are evident in the story. Paradox is a contradictory statement if you're not sure. So the paradox example is the silent giant on page 5. So I've given you that one. Types of conflict in the story, human versus human and human versus nature. Some significant quotations in reference to question number 3. Foreshadowing elements. Off there to the right, somewhere is a large island, said Whitney. It's rather a mystery. This is an example that builds anticipation or suspense for the reader. The old charts call it Ship Trap Island. So this is setting up the setting of the story, and it's symbolic as it has a foreshadowing element. The place has a reputation, a bad one. So here's an example of one of our 6 common cues. It hints at this location being a negative one, and it builds suspense in what will happen there. A simile. The sea was flat as a plate glass window. So you could see a simple glass window looking out it. It was a still body of water. The setting. The cry was pinched off short as the blood-warm waters of the Caribbean Sea dosed over his head. So in this case where I said the sea is symbolic of death, blood-warm waters. So when you think of blood, that means death in the water. And it was creepy and a deadly setting. And potentially drowning, dosed over his head, drowning. So that's the negative reference of the water. Metaphor, that I could sleep without closing my eyes, the night would be my eyelids. So this is a metaphor suggesting the trouble that he has with sleep and the fear that he is going through. Symbolism and conflict, so person versus nature. He struggled up to the surface and tried to cry out, but the wash from the speeding yacht slapped him in the face, and the salt water in his mouth made him gag and strangle. So once again, salt water in the mouth, not pleasant if you've ever had it. Too much salt water can cause you to die. So the ocean is symbolic of death. So those are the examples of the concepts for the most dangerous game to add to your notes of literary devices.